Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Pearson Business Book Club. My name is Eloise Cook and I'm the publisher for the professional lists at Pearson. Each month at the book club, we choose a Pearson business or personal development book and we invite the author to discuss it. So hello, Emma Sue.
Hi, hello there.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Emma Sue will also be giving a masterclass on something from the book too, which is very exciting. And just a reminder that if you do need to leave halfway through, we're recording this and then the video will be available to watch on demand at the book club website. And we can post that in the chat if you don't know about it already. So let's find out what this book is. Go. Right, so our book this month is 7 Skills for the Future by Emma Sue Prince. So if you haven't got a copy yet, you can buy it from pearson.com and all bookshops everywhere, and print and ebook. And you can also download a sample chapter of the book from the book club webpage. So we want this session to be interactive and we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So please post your questions and then we'll get Emma Sue to answer them sort of as and when. So Emma Sue, I've got a small introduction for you. You are a specialist in experiential learning and you believe strongly that this methodology is key to developing life skills and soft skills. It's the only way to develop self-awareness upon which all behavioural change is based. You run Unimenta, which is unimenta.com, which is home of the 7 future skills. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. That's all right. This is very exciting. I think this is perfect for January. You know, hit the ground running with these skills. I know I've got a very sort of positive mindset at the moment of what I want to achieve this year. So this is going to be really useful stuff. So we'll start with our usual questions. So we get to quiz you a little bit. So tell me first, why did you want to write this book?
I think mainly because I was well aware of all the kind of umbrella terms around soft skills, like, you know, leadership development and communication skills, interpersonal skills, all of this. And I wanted to dive deeper into things that were inside us that we could all develop and nurture that underpin all those other skills.
Sure. Sounds great. Just going to stop sharing so I can see you properly. There we go. And so was there anything that surprised you about writing this book?
I think the main thing that surprised me about writing it was that I could look back on my life and I could see just how much of these skills I had been using, but maybe just wasn't aware that I've been using them.
And hence that self-awareness aspect, I guess.
Yes. And also the desire to give people understanding of how you can actually nurture these skills in the day-to-day now, not looking back and thinking, oh yeah, that's when I was resilient or that's when I adapted, but how do I do it now going forward?
Yes, that's really valuable stuff. And finally, how do you want readers to feel after they've read your book?
I want them to feel like they can get out there and change their lives and make the world move.
Great, love it. Yeah, let's make that happen.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I'm going to hand over to you for the masterclass. As a reminder, just pop questions into the Q&A box if you've got anything you want to ask Emma Sue, and I'll be back in a bit.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and should be able to see my slides there. So it's coming up to the end of January, a long month, and maybe at the start of January you had some good intentions, things that you want to accomplish this year. A lot of people say at the beginning of the year, you know, this year's going to be better, it's going to be different, I'm going to get rid of all these things that don't serve me and I'm going to change things. And so I want to first of all ask you, and I'm going to launch a poll here, about if you did set any New Year's resolutions. So you should see the poll there for you there. Did you make New Year resolutions for 2023? And you've got various options there. Yes, I'm smashing them. Yes, but I've not kept them as much as I would have liked to. No, they don't work. Or I like the idea, but I don't tend to do it. So let's see what comes up. Just give you a couple of moments to think about that. And so far, it's quite interesting what we're seeing. Only a small percentage are saying, yes, I'm smashing them. Okay, so let's see what the results are. So you should be able to see the results coming up on your screen now. And if you're watching the recording, what you won't see, but I can tell you, is that only a few people have said, yes, I'm smashing them. Most of you are saying, I like the idea, but I don't tend to do it. And you are absolutely right, in the sense that we all know what this looks like, the beginning of a new year. And certainly in my gym, this was super busy the whole of January. And then you get to the end of January and it's kind of empty. So what I want to do today is talk about stuff that really does work. So for me, the only way we can live and be happy, both at home and at work, so not one or the other, but both fully aligned, is by bringing these 7 skills into our lives. And these are skills that we each have within us pretty much in unlimited capacity. Just think about that for a minute. You've got these skills abundantly and in unlimited capacity if we nurture and develop them. This is not gobbledygook, but it's not a quick fix either. It's well researched and trialed within my book and in hundreds of awareness raising workshops that I've run all over the world with all sorts of people in different industries. So my purpose today is to introduce you to these 7 skills, a snapshot, if you like, of them, and to light a fire around harnessing and developing them every single day in your life. And in that way, make 2023 a completely different year for yourself, no matter what gets thrown at us. No matter what gets thrown at us. I mean, the last 3 years, we've had a lot thrown at us. Who knows what's going to be happening this year? So there are 7 skills. They all matter and they all overlap with each other. The first one is adaptability. And this skill helps you respond to change, but helps you to respond to change with grace and with ease, because you know you've got the skills to deal with pretty much any uncertainty, any setback or challenge. And interestingly, we like to think we're adaptable, but we also like to stick with what we know and with whatever is safe and easiest. We naturally gravitate towards that. And we tend to shy away from anything that is mildly uncomfortable. And that's a big mistake, because when we experience that little bit of discomfort, it's usually a sign that we can stretch and grow if we do this thing that's a bit uncomfortable. So you think of times in your life when you've had to adapt. I'm sure we can think of some, especially given the last 3 years, probably quite a few things that you adapted to, but also before that. So any change that you've adapted to, think of how you came through that change and the skills that you used to help you get there. Those skills are exactly the same that you need as you go forward. One way to really fast track your ability to be adaptable is to try something new every day. So if any of you know the UK series Dragon's Den, where they give money to people trying to launch new businesses, one of the dragons, don't think he's on the show right now, but one of the dragons from the past, Tej Lavani, he told me, actually, because I interviewed him, told me that he learns something new every single day, whether that's a skill or just doing something in a different way and embracing the new. If we stay with what we know, if we stay in our comfort zones, we do not grow. So I want to blast the myth of this quote that life begins at the end of our comfort zone. No, it doesn't. It begins at that bit where you are learning and developing. You don't want to be in that far bit where you're in panic, because that's fight or flight and you can't really achieve anything there. But by the end of your life, your comfort zone should be absolutely massive because you are building it. And you do something that is new or uncomfortable, you master it, and guess what? You're bang in your comfort zone again. So you've got to keep widening that comfort zone. So this year in 2023, commit to doing something new, learning something new, doing something that stretches you. Yes, it can be something like a bigger thing, like a new language or a new skill, but it can be anything, but commit to doing that as much as you can every day. Next skill is critical thinking. And a critical thinker can make decisions with incomplete information, with ambiguous information. They're resourceful, they're creative, they're collaborative, and our brains are absolutely amazing. Just as they are amazing. And they can do so much more for us than we allow them to. So if you think, every day you're bombarded with lots of stuff coming at you every day. And that stuff drains our brains of energy. And we need that energy. We really, really need that energy. And we need to do what we can to conserve that energy and make time to think. Sounds crazy, right? Time to think. Why do we need to do that? But if you can create a bit of space in your day, every day, for some reflection, some contemplation, and encourage this at work as well, to have that, to not be buzzing around always on all the time. And many people I speak to in coaching sessions, for example, they have every single moment of their life and their work is full. Tasks, meetings, overwhelm, back-to-back meetings. They come out of one meeting and they go straight into another meeting. So make some space. Go for a walk. Walking meetings at work, brilliant for new ideas, but they're also very good just for ourselves. So when we create that space, our brains do what they've been designed to do, which is to be resourceful, to be creative, to have ideas, to come up with solutions. But creating that space is also important for processing change and processing emotion. And that helps you with adaptability as well, because these skills, they all overlap. Other things you can do to boost your critical thinking skills is to routinize things as much as you can. Any straightforward decisions, systems, processes, get them into a kind of routine and free up your brain to do the important things. So important things that your brain can do, for example, is questioning assumptions you might be making, because we make them automatically, we make them really, really fast. And then we act on them because we think they're real and they're not. So that, just question your assumptions. We naturally gravitate towards data that supports our own viewpoint. We're very good at that. So to really think critically, we need to make space, slow down, create systems that routinize processes as much as possible. And we need to work a lot more collaboratively as well. So right alongside critical thinking is creative thinking. We're all creative thinkers, but we often create our own barriers to that. And we tell ourselves we aren't creative, we don't have time, we don't want to risk failure by trying something new. So critical and creative thinking are two sides of the same coin. Good decisions require focusing on the most relevant information, asking the right questions, separating reliable facts from any assumptions. They're all intrinsic elements of critical thinking. The next skill is empathy. And I've got that wrapped up in a gift, because this skill has the power to completely transform all your relationships, personal and professional. So the best gift that you can give somebody is the gift of your attention. And it's really hard to give that gift if you're not able to be present and in the moment. So one of the things that really helps with empathy is the practice of mindfulness. Any kind of mindfulness practice, any kind of breathing practice will help you tap into empathy skills, because it helps you to be more present and in the moment. You can do it anywhere. Breathe and bring yourself back into the present moment. I was talking to the CEO of Mindfulness in the Workplace, And she was telling me that she was working with somebody who was traveling all over the world. This was pre-COVID. Loads and loads of meetings, very, very charismatic individual, very, a leader. And he had said to her that the only way that he could manage that and have all those meetings and do the kind of work he was doing, the only way was because in between each meeting, he would pause, breathe, and practice mindfulness. And that was, and he could be totally present in any conversation. And now when you're totally present, you're listening. And that's probably the biggest part of empathy, is the ability to listen, the ability to just be present, not come in with all your own stuff, and listen. And if you think of being present and mindfulness as the most important thing, okay, the most important thing for me to be doing right now is this, here with you. And the most important thing for you to be doing right now is to be here. And then after this session, that's the most important thing. So whether it's a meeting or a person in front of you with a problem, client or colleague, be with that person. If I'm writing a report, preparing for a project, that's the most important thing. If I'm having a cup of tea with my sister or my husband, that's the most important thing. In the rare windows that I can actually have a conversation with my teenage son, that's the most important thing. And if I'm not present in that particular window, it's gone. The opportunity to have that conversation with him has gone. So when it comes to relationships, that ability to focus and be present 100% is what makes you a deep listener. But it takes practice, partly because we find it so challenging anyway, but also because we don't do it enough. So we don't do it enough in those small things. So if we can't be present in small ways and show up and make it a habit, we're never going to be able to have it when the stakes are high and when we're dealing with conflict or with something that's quite tricky. So being present, and one of the best ways to do that is through our breath, to do this regularly, slowing down your breathing, doing breathing from your diaphragm. This is also a great way to alleviate stress because it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. The next skill is integrity. And integrity is a bit like a compass. So integrity gives us direction to our lives, and so it helps us make decisions, and we develop integrity by understanding what our values are. So what's really important to us? There are all kinds of exercises that you can find around identifying what your values are. You can also download one from my website as well. But it's really worthwhile thinking about what is actually really important to me. And most of all, how is that showing up? How is that manifest in what I do every day? My everyday actions, my everyday decisions. If that value isn't being lived and is not present, then other people experiencing you won't necessarily experience you as someone to be trusted. So it's quite a big thing, because people can sense that. They can sense your energy, they can sense who you are as a person. So the more you are aligned to your values, the more you're going to be authentic and be you. Integrity is also about being consistent. It's about doing what you say you will do. It's about showing up, keeping your promises, being accountable. If you mess up, if you make a mistake, own it. Be okay with it, and then make it right. And being kind of like a harbor in a storm. And when we've got a lot of uncertainty and change around us, which we do, we have that going on around us, then integrity actually becomes a really important skill, because you're that harbor in the storm. And lots of organizations have values. In fact, used to be quite trendy. I don't think really it is so much anymore, but it used to be quite trendy to show off what those values were. And they were all the same. They weren't actually anything, unique. They were also all kind of the same kind of thing. But it's meaningless. That's meaningless unless those values are visible throughout the company in every single encounter with not just with clients, not just with customers, but with colleagues as well. from the very top to the very bottom, and every encounter, every decision, every action, it doesn't mean anything. So make 2023 the year that you identify your values. You'll be happier, you'll make better decisions, and you'll create the highest currency of all, which is trust. And one more thing to say about values is, if you know what your values are, and again, this comes back to having a really healthy self-awareness as well, but if you know what your values are and you experience conflict with someone, or you find you don't get on with someone for some reason, if you think about it and look at it, what you'll probably find is that the reason you don't get on with that person is because they're breaching one of your values. You're clashing because of that. So the more you know what your values are, the more you'll maybe understand if there's a conflict with somebody in your life, and you'll probably have better ways that you can deal with that conflict. The next skill is being proactive. Now, whatever is worrying you right now, there might be something on your mind, something that's niggling at you. It doesn't have to be a big thing, could be a small thing, but just have a think for a moment right now where you are, something that is on your mind, that's troubling you, that's a bit of a worry, okay? And what I want you to do right now, because no one's going to see this, okay? So right now, write down a list of everything in that situation that is within your control. Okay, the things that are within your control about the situation. Just jot them down. When we're worried about something, we tend to put most of our energy into the very things we can't control, the things that are outside our control. So, and this is wasted energy. So wasted energy is what other people think, what they might be saying, what they might be doing. And then we'll escalate that. These are just very general tendencies, okay? But we'll escalate that, and then we expand it to other things, maybe to the economic situation, politics, and we'll speculate. And we waste a lot of time thinking about it. So this thing can take up headspace, we're thinking about it, and maybe we're talking about it, maybe we're doing other things about it. But get your energy right back into the things that you can control. Doesn't mean you don't get upset about something. Get upset, own it, get upset, go for a walk, process it, sort it out, and then get your energy into what you can control. So that's your behavior, your actions, your thoughts. And the minute you do that, so the minute you get that energy into what you can control, you'll notice two things happen, and they are immediate, okay? They are immediate things. The first thing is that you immediately feel happier. But also the second thing is that you perhaps influence those things that are not in your control. So there are two aspects to being proactive. So one is in the short term, what I've just been talking about, focusing on what you can control. Also finding the space between stimulus and response. So this comes from Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey, who talked about anything that comes to us. Let's imagine it's an email, okay? There is a very small space. We don't often make that space, a small space between that stimulus, which is the email, and our response to it. And if we create just a tiny bit of space there, we can then choose our response rather than reacting. We live in a very reactive world. Everything is immediate. So when we take that pause, we're going to have a better response in that, to that email, or whatever it might be. It could be anything. The other side to being proactive is long term, to be really clear about your goals, what you want, where you want to go, and work towards those goals. And then you take initiative to move towards these goals. So being proactive is all about movement towards something rather than kind of going away from it. You're moving towards it. Don't wait for opportunities. You proactively look for the opportunities and find them. There's constant movement in small steps. So yeah, New Year's resolutions, no, they don't work. Think about your intentions, your growth, where you want to be, and then start really small in micro steps. So being proactive is very I mean, all the skills overlap. Being proactive is very strongly linked with the final two skills, the next of which is optimism. Being proactive and optimism are strongly linked together. Optimism, you really can build this skill. You can develop optimism rather than just viewing it as something you either have or you don't have. I'm an optimist, or I'm a pessimist, or I'm a realist. No, you can develop this as a skill. So one big thing that you can do, and it's very widely researched as boosting optimism, is to simply be grateful, to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. So writing down what you're grateful for, or looking back on the day and finding positive experiences you may have had during that day. So study after study show that people who lean into joy cultivate this attitude. And the reason it's so powerful is because our brain is naturally hardwired to look for the negative. We love it. We look for the negative. And when things are uncertain, we do it even more because we're looking for information. We're trying to get some certainty when there isn't any. So we're trying to find that certainty. And we gravitate towards the negative. And chances are your brain would have been doing that more, I know mine has, in the last 3 years. Just because trying to get information, trying to understand what on earth is going on. So one way to short circuit that, if you like, and change perspective is by this gratitude practice. And you can maybe keep a journal. This is what I do. I write in my journal every day. But you can also bring gratitude to the workplace. Imagine if you were to start meetings by asking people around the table what they're grateful for, or what's great about this project. You know, inject that into work, or ending the day with a quick recap of all the positive experiences that day. Again, widely researched. They did a study several years back now with people who were in war-torn countries, like in huge crisis, and they did it over several weeks, and they asked people to articulate what their positive experiences were of that day. So even in the midst of the most horrendous day, they could identify positive experiences. It might just be a kind gesture, it might just be a cup of tea, but where there were positive experiences in every single day. And those people that took part in this study, they were less susceptible to post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's very, very powerful, and also very powerful to write them down. For some reason that taps into a different part of our brain, but you don't have to write them down. So you can also build optimism and empathy in one go, just by being kind, choosing kindness. You can plan joy in your day. And they discovered that it wasn't about the quality of positive experiences in terms of joy every day, but the quantity, just small joyous things that you can build every day into your day. Anything you can do to make your workplace a happy one is going to make it a productive one too. I'm a great believer in bringing cake to work. If you're going into the office, bring cake. But also ensuring for well-being in the workplace. And that means trust, making it a place where people can be themselves. You don't want a workplace where people are not bringing their whole selves and 100% of their productivity while they are there. So optimism, a skill that you can build and develop. When you do, it links and builds being proactive, and the final skill, which is being resilient. And resilience is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, and we all need to foster resilience to deal with anything that life brings our way. And one of the things about resilience is we actually tend to give up quite easily if something doesn't work out as we'd hoped. So we give up surprisingly easily. Oh, that didn't work out, or I tried that. You know, I made that call, but they weren't interested, or I sent off this proposal, but nobody wanted it. So I'm not going to send another one. But a key aspect of resilience is building perseverance and grit. And that's all about being okay with failing, learning, getting up again, going forward, being okay with rejection. Rejection could happen 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've had things rejected for lots of different reasons. But we tend to give up. The reality is we tend to give up after just 1 rejection, maybe 2. We sort of give up very early on. So we need to keep going, keep moving, and keep trying different approaches. So perseverance, sometimes people think about perseverance, I'll just keep going. I'll never give up. I'll never give up. That's not what perseverance is. Perseverance is about trying out a different approach. If something didn't work, maybe I could try it a different way. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to try and figure it out. So it's quite active. Also crucial for resilience is to think about what kind of support network you have around you. Do you have that support network? Do you have people around you that you can go to, that you trust? How well do you look after yourself? Do you get enough sleep? Do you eat the right foods? Are you taking breaks? Many people working hybridly take far less breaks. So what are you doing? How are you supporting yourself? These 3 skills of resilience, optimism, being proactive are really strongly linked. So if you're being proactive, you're more likely to be resilient and optimistic, and so on and so on. So if you think about these skills, if you think about it a bit like a professional footballer, I mean, I don't know much about football, but I quite like this analogy. And this is about, a professional footballer kicking a ball, and they practice for millions of hours manipulating that ball with every part of their foot. And they do that over and over and over and over again. So when they get to the match, they look up. They look up, they're not looking at their feet, they're looking up, they're looking around, and they're responding. And it's exactly the same with developing these skills. So thinking about when can you bring them into the low stake situations so that then you've got them to hand when you've got a high stake situation. So if you want to, for example, if you want to learn how to be a better listener, there's no better practice ground than the people closest to you, because they will test that skill every time. So being present and being with the people that are close to you is one way to practice that. And the more you practice that, the better you can bring that into a high stake situation where you might really need it. So all of these skills are about thinking, where can I strengthen them every single day? What can I be doing every day that's going to help me move forward and use these skills and see how they apply to my life in the day-to-day? So you've got adaptability, critical thinking, empathy, integrity, being proactive, being optimistic, and resilience. I'm happy to take questions now and respond to anything you want to ask about any of these skills. I think I can see something in the chat, but I can see something there.
Thanks, Emma Sue. That was great. It was really useful. I feel motivated for the year ahead. I can see a couple of questions in the chat, so if anyone else has any, please feel free to type them in. So the first one is, even though it's important to adapt and learn a new skill each time, but can everyone commit to doing this? For example, can someone learn and master different skills, i.e. learning Photoshop, web analytics, technical, content creator, learning a new language, particularly when you don't speak every day, and expect to be a master of all of them? I think they're sort of getting at, how many new things should I take on?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I think when we're talking about learning a new skill, it doesn't have to be a language or a technical, big technical skill. It can be something really, really small. It's about opening yourself up to new experiences. So things like, even if you take time to watch a LinkedIn video or listen to a podcast or find out something that you don't know anything about, that's a way of learning and opening up to something new. Yes, it can be a hard skill, like a new technical platform or something like that, but it's not about learning all these skills so that you become 100% proficient in them all. It's more about opening yourself up to the new every single day and learning something new, not assuming that we know everything, learning something new and thinking, okay, I've learned something today. So it can be, it's both of those things, but it's not about being a sort of master at tons and tons of different skills, not so much about that.
Sure. And I think that's the reason why we fail in January. If we've set ourselves this massive list and we try to do too much all at once, it's about what's sort of realistic and achievable, I guess.
Yeah, it's breaking things down into micro steps that you can take, rather than trying to have a big thing. I mean, I know this is, people will know this already because it's sort of obvious, why do we go for these big, huge, massive goals? But you can just break it down to something really, really small and then to persevere. I mean, just thinking about technology for a moment, if you're having to learn how to use a new platform, which I've had to do recently, you do it in very small ways because you're not going to be able to learn it. Or you're not going to be able to learn all of it in one go, and we don't often give ourselves enough time. So especially with technology, interestingly, we'll try something and then we think, oh, it's not working, I can't do it. But that's about perseverance and giving yourself the time to open up and try to figure it out.
Absolutely. Here's another question. If you keep trying at something and keep failing, do you have any strategies on how to stay motivated and find new approaches? So you've covered that a bit, but if there's anything else, and how do you find out what you were doing wrong or could do differently?
Okay, so the first one, trying and failing, I think that's just about being comfortable with that. It's almost like saying to yourself, I'm gonna get things wrong. I am gonna get things wrong because we are, we're human beings. We're not going to get it right all the time. So I think to stay motivated, part of that is about acceptance that we might make mistakes, but then also I think this is where it links with optimism, because we will tend to focus on our mistakes. We'll tend to focus on, oh, well, I got that wrong. I must be really bad at X, Y, Z. And that's our brains kind of going zeroing in on the negative. So to kind of bring that back. So one of the hallmarks of being an optimist is being able to assess situations accurately. So you can look at something and say, okay, I messed up that bit, but actually I can do these things. And I need to learn this particular bit or go over it or understand it. So I think part of that is being able to stand back a little bit and not kind of take that mistake as being all about you and that you can't do something, but recognizing that, okay, that's something I need to take a bit more time over. So healthy self-esteem. The other thing about that is that the more you try new things, the more you get into that stretch zone and learning zone, the other great boost and bonus of that is you develop confidence. Now, when you develop confidence, you're going to be able to stand back a little bit, like I was just saying, and be able to say to yourself, okay, I get that. That's something I need to spend a bit more time on, rather than thinking, oh, I failed, I'm no good at whatever it is, can't do it. So a lot of this is about how we talk to ourselves, and a lot of the time we're not very nice to ourselves. We have a negative chit chat on our shoulders. So you just got to say, you know what, thank you, but actually I'm doing this.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think even just sort of noticing that negative self-talk is a massive step. And I think that's fantastic advice. Here's another one. How far can one go outside your comfort zone, particularly when it gets to the point that it doesn't really excite you or just isn't right, and you just prefer to develop your experience and skills in your specialist areas?
Yeah. Okay. So that's I love that bit where it says doesn't really excite me, doesn't feel right, because you might, so if you feel bored, yeah, you might be in your comfort zone. And that's okay. You know, I'm not saying we shouldn't be in our comfort zone, because we're actually highly competent in our comfort zones. We're very comfortable, we're very good at what we do, and, you know, great. If we feel a bit bored, that's a sign to try something different, or make sure we are in that stretch zone. If you are doing something which is too far outside that stretch zone, so that's when you're in panic zone and you feel that fight or flight, that's where you can say, okay, what do I need that's going to help me move into that stretch zone? Or that's not something I'm going to do right now. That's not going to be helpful for me right now. So it's understanding what is going on. You will know. So if something feels a little bit uncomfortable, that is probably a sign that you need to go and do that thing. And then you will grow, you'll stretch and grow. But it's perfectly okay to make those decisions. It's perfectly okay to say, actually, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm choosing not to do that right now because I want to do this thing over here.
And sometimes even just sort of saying, okay, you know, that makes me uncomfortable, but I'll think about it, and maybe I'll come to it later if you're not quite ready, perhaps.
Or what do I need? You know, where can I get some support? What do I need that's going to help me move myself forward, so that I'm learning and growing, but I'm not like terrified, you know.
Yeah, love it. Okay, thank you for this webinar. Incredible topic to learn about. Is there a seminar or online course so they can keep learning about this?
Yes, you can go to the website, 7 Skills for the Future. And on the website, there are some they're free, they're mini self-access modules where you can go and go through some quizzes and things, and more tips on how you can develop these skills. There's also lots of free resources on there that you can download. So yes, the book, you know, the book is the book, and thank you for that lovely comment. And it's given me such great opportunities to develop the workshops that I have developed, and all the resources I have developed to help people to nurture these skills. So yeah, you can just go to the website.
Right, great. And I'll be showing it on screen in a few minutes. I think this is the last question. Why do kids who are naturally born with this not caring for making mistakes, while we as adults basically stop doing things because of the social fear of being wrong?
Yeah.
I think how can we rise above this?
Yes. I think a lot of that's to do with how we grow up. You know, once we get, I mean, if you yes, little kids, they're not, you know, they'll just go out there and do it. As we start to develop more awareness, and as we get older and teenage and then into adulthood, some of that will be around what we've been told, you know, what we've been told about things. Some of it unfortunately is linked to education systems, you know, and getting grades and assessments and all of that kind of thing. And I think we just learn that fear of, I'm going to get it wrong, or I'm going to make a mistake. So the way to unlearn that is to get out there and make those mistakes. So I know that's kind of maybe not what you might want to hear, but it is about allowing yourself to experiment, allowing yourself to get it wrong and then get it right. I mean, you don't get good at something unless you've got it wrong several times. I mean, if I think about when I first started, this is before the pandemic. I mean, I got better at it as the pandemic went on, but way before the pandemic, when webinars and things were relatively new, I remember one of the very first webinars I ran, it must have been about 11 years ago. And I thought, great, fantastic. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have all these things going on in this webinar, music, you know, everything, the lot. And it was just a colossal failure, you know, made all the mistakes. and I had all those emotions. All those emotions. I'm rubbish. What was I thinking? What am I doing? Oh my gosh, what are they thinking? And I look back on that and I think I'm so glad I made all those mistakes in one go. Got out there, got it all in one go, and then I figured it out. So we need to be okay with making mistakes. I want to go back to just this because it's such a great question, because children, so adolescents whose brains are still developing, okay, and the research shows that if the more experiences you have as an adolescent, the more you can make mistakes, get out there, travel, do things that are slightly risky, that you develop that adaptability skill and it stays with you as an adult. So any of us who have young people in our lives, we need to get them out there doing things, not high risk stuff, but things that allow them to test stuff out, to make mistakes, it's not easy, I know, but to do those. The more experiences you have, and people who are adaptable, if they've had lots of different experiences as young people, some of them may be not pleasant, they develop adaptability skills. So I think part of it is just we have to experience things that are perhaps not comfortable, not, make those mistakes, fail, all those things, to grow and to then be okay, and to kind of be able to, you can definitely unlearn unlearn that fear of being wrong. Definitely you can unlearn it, but you have to go out there and allow yourself to make those mistakes.
Fab. And we've had a couple more comments saying excellent presentation and great tips. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Emma C. That was fantastic. I'm going to just pop onto screen how people can stay in touch with you. So if they want to visit your website, you mentioned that there are some free resources there. You've got your sort of LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. You're doing all the social media. That's fantastic.
And may I talk about the O'Reilly session tomorrow?
You may. Go ahead.
Tomorrow afternoon, UK time, 1 o'clock, I am running a 3-hour session, marathon session, on critical and creative thinking for the O'Reilly platform, partnered with Pearson. So if you are available, you can join us there.
Yes, do have a go. If you're in a company, you might already have an O'Reilly subscription. I think you can do a 1-week trial.
Yes, you don't. You can just go. You can just go to the maybe you can type. Well, I don't know if you can type in the chat, but anyway, you just go to the O'Reilly platform, creative and critical thinking, and you can download a free trial, so you don't have to pay for this workshop, for the session. You can just try. Yeah.
And that's excellent value. I think you ran the session previously, didn't you, Emma Sue? And I can say it doesn't feel like 3 hours. There's breaks and things. Don't be put off by the time. There's such a lot of good information as well. Great. Well, so thank you to everyone for attending. Our book next month is the Financial Times Guide to High Impact Negotiation by Kazia Jagodinska. And that will be on Tuesday, the 28th of February at 2 p.m. UK time. And her masterclass will be on the strategy and psychology of how to negotiate successfully. So if you're interested, please sign up to our newsletter, and we'll remind you of the event before it happens. So hopefully we'll see you there. And we're also going to, hopefully there'll be a survey that's just popped up on your screens. We just want to know if you enjoyed the event, any feedback. So do please fill that in if you can. But yeah, thank you so much, Emma Sue. That was really useful.
Very welcome. Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Yes. Thank you for everyone's great questions. And I can see some questions about the O'Reilly session, so I'm going to try and quickly find the link and see if I can pop it into the chat. This will be a task, won't it?
Persevere, Eloise.
Yeah, yes, persevere. I'll get that. I think if I can't do it in time, we'll post it on our Pearson Books Twitter and LinkedIn, things like that.